Hi, third graders. There was a news report this morning that the first hummingbird in St. Mary's County was seen yesterday at a hummingbird feeder in somebody's backyard who lives in Lexington Park. My first thought was that I need to hurry and get my feeders put out. That means these tiny birds have migrated back from Central America. That is even farther south than Mexico and Guatemala. I love ruby-throated hummingbirds. I need to get my hummingbird feeders ready so that I can attract them to my yard. They're so much fun to watch as they dart around the yard and they buzz around the flowers. Hummingbirds are also very good for the world we live in because they spread pollen to flowers with their long beaks. It is made by flowers and it is needed to help them grow, form seeds, and make fruit. Hummingbirds eat pollen and the nectar, which is the sugary juice made by flowers. One of the reasons I enjoy watching hummingbirds so much is because of their fast-moving wings and the way they fly. A ruby-throated hummingbird can flap its wings up to 53 times a second. They change their direction so quickly and can even fly backwards. Male ruby-throated hummingbirds will defend their food or feeder by chasing and jabbing other hummingbirds with their beaks. These birds get their name because the male has a ruby red throat. The female builds a nest the size of the end of your thumb. It is made of dandelions and spider webs and covered on the outside with moss. The spider silk allows the nest to stretch as the babies grow, while the moss provides camouflage. The female lays 2 eggs that are smaller than chili beans. After 2 weeks, they hatch, and the birds are flying in about 4 weeks. The oldest known ruby-throated hummingbird was just over 9 years old. That is the age of many third graders.
Mrs. P has quite a collection of hummingbird feeders, and they're a little bit dirty. And when you have a hummingbird feeder, you want to make sure that it's very clean and it doesn't have germs and bacteria on it because hummingbirds could get sick. We're feeding them so that they're healthy and they're fun to watch when they gather. We certainly don't want to make them sick. Mrs. P looked up how best to clean a hummingbird feeder. First, I took them apart. I'm filling up the sink with some warm water, and it said to use mild detergent soap, just a little bit, because I'm going to have to rinse them very, very well. And I'm going to let them soak for a while because they have been in storage. The ants got into them because they love sweet things. And hummingbird nectar, which I'm going to show you how to make in a minute, is very sweet. So I'm going to let these soak, then I'll move on to the next step. Okay. Because I took them apart, Mrs. P decided that I would follow the third grade math strategies for solving a problem. So I was very organized and I put them all the parts that go together in a line so that they would match up because sometimes I get confused. I want you to notice something. Do you notice how this one here has yellow right here, just like the inside of a flower? Hummingbirds, just like honeybees, are very attracted. That means they love the color yellow because that's usually the middle of the flower where the nectar is, which they want to gather. This one just has the red flowers. This one has red flowers too. This one's very old, so it's discolored. That means it's faded. Yellow's washed away in the sun. A lot of times you'll see hummingbird nectar will be sold in a store and it'll have red food coloring in it. So that is not necessary, and it could even, the chemicals in the dye could be harmful. It could hurt the hummingbirds, whichever. It's not necessary because the birds see these flowers and they think that they're real flowers. So you don't need to put food coloring in. This one's pretty, isn't it? This is my favorite, actually. I used to fill them up as high as I could. Now I've learned that you want to change your hummingbird nectar, the juice you put in, regularly because the ants get in, and also outside in the sun, it could be a great way to grow germs and bacteria inside. So I let them run out, and then I make new hummingbird nectar to put into them so that it's always fresh and it won't make the birds sick. Any of you that know Mrs. P's penmanship, the neatness of her writing, third graders will know this especially, or anybody that's had me as a teacher in third grade, that my handwriting is not very neat. So I have written down in my messy writing what Mr. P is going to write on these boards, teaching you about how to make hummingbird nectar. And he's doing it very neatly. Thank you, Mr. P. We appreciate it. Are you going to say something, Mr. P?
Certainly.
Hummingbird nectar is very simple to make. It's 1 cup of water plus 1/4 of a cup of sugar. Let's talk about fractions. Mr. P and I make our fractions differently. When I write it, I make the line horizontal between the 1 and the 4. But the way he does it is he does it at a diagonal. Diagonal means like the line is leaning. A fraction is a whole divided into equal parts. The number on the top is called the numerator. The 1 is the numerator, and the 4 is the denominator. So if I have 1/4, that's a fraction that means 1/4. That means I have 1 part of something that is whole, and that whole is divided into equal sections of 4. I want to make a lot of hummingbird nectar. So how much water and sugar will I need to make 4 times the recipe? So I'm going to do 4 times 1 cup water. Multiplication is repeated addition. 4 times 1 equals 4 cups. So 4 times 1 cup of water equals 4 cups of water. I could also do 1 plus 1 plus 1 plus 1 equals 4. I do 4 times 1/4 cup of sugar. So I only multiply the 4 times the numerator, and I bring a 4 over here. So I have 4 parts of the whole. So if I have 1 cup divided into 4 equal parts, and I have 4 of them, that will equal 1 whole cup of sugar. And again, it could be repeated addition. 1/4 plus 1/4 plus 1/4 plus 1/4 equals 4/4 will equal a whole cup. Mr. P drew this beautiful picture of the cup here. And you can see the measurements. 1/4 would fill it up to here, 2/4 to here, 3/4 to here, and 4/4 to here. And it shows you that that's 1 whole cup. So here we go. Here's my 1 whole cup of sugar. Here's the water I need. 1 cup, 2 cup, 3 cups, 4 cups. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to put that water into the microwave and get it good and hot, and then I'm going to pour the sugar into it. And remember, I don't put any dye in because it's not necessary, because my hummingbird feeders have the little colored parts that make it look like flowers. And you may notice I'm missing one of my little flower things. These are quite old. And of course I can't get to a store because we're not shopping these days. We're social distancing. That means we're staying away from crowds and stores. So I'm reusing my old ones. So I put my water into the microwave, and I'm going to tell it to do 4 minutes. And while that's cooking, I'll show you what Mr. P and I have been working on. We have old cabinets in our house, and they're the old oak colors. And we're in the middle of our project right now. We're painting them white. And it looks all nice and clean and more modern. It's a lot of work. I have all my ingredients here. My 4 cups of water out of the microwave, it's very hot, and my 1 cup of sugar. Go ahead and put the sugar in this bowl here first. So there's 1 cup of sugar. And then I'm going to take my 4 cups of water, and it's hot, so you got to be very careful. If you do this at home, make sure you have an adult with you. And you see, ooh, steam. Now let's stir it around, making it dissolve. Dissolved in chemistry is when a solid, which is the sugar, dissolves or mixes thoroughly with something else like this fluid, which is water. And now I have a solution. Okay, it needs to cool off because I don't want to melt or in any way harm my hummingbird feeders. Then I'm going to fill them. Using our strategies from our math lessons, I'm trying to be very organized. So I have the bottoms here already, and then the tops that I need to fill up with the nectar here. And a couple of them I had to put in other containers because their bottoms weren't flat enough. And especially this round one, of course, that wouldn't stand up. I've poured the hummingbird nectar into each one, and I didn't fill them up too much because remember I mentioned that when I fill them up a lot, then it gets old and it could get bacteria and germs that'll grow in it, and we do not want to make our hummingbirds sick. Got all the tops back on. They're all upside down. By the way, I did spill a lot of the hummingbird juice. I really have to use some soap and water and some cleaner because the ants love sweet things, and they will be up here in minutes. Now I'm going to prepare the areas where I'm going to hang these, and I know where the popular places are from other years. Mrs. P is going to hang up the last one. This is her favorite one because it has the flowers on it. I believe it was made in Mexico. That does look like a Mexican motif or a decoration that you would see in Mexico. And I'm going to hang it right here. There's one. Put this one very low. I'm doing an experiment. I'm testing which ones will be the most popular. 2. There's number 3. And there's my favorite. So welcome hummingbirds. The hummingbird feeders are now open.